I would get vivid memories that would feel like I was back in the same situation. I had nightmares for months, years. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for tuning in for another video. You and me need to have a chat. I've been needing to talk to you. I'm just chilling on the floor right now. So I wanted to make a video about PTSD as a 23-year-old because I know that there are so many people out there, and you watching this may have experienced this. Maybe you're going through this. Maybe you know somebody who goes through this. You know, having PTSD throughout my late teens, early 20s, whatever age you may be. I just want to share my experience and what that has been like, because I think I really developed PTSD when I went off to college, and that is such a weird situation and time to be in anyway, because specifically for me, or if you're out there, no matter if that's a job, you moved away from your hometown, you went to college somewhere, no matter what that experience is, that's just a really monumental time. You know, leaving high school and realizing that there is a way bigger world out there, if you know what I mean. Besides high school, like high school to me now really doesn't mean anything because it's such a blimp in the rest of your life, but when you're in it, it feels like everything, right? And so that time for me was really monumental in general, because I was moving into an apartment for the first time ever, you know, living on your own. I went to a brand new city that I've never been before, new college, new people, you know, so it was definitely a really transitional period in my life. You know, PTSD can come from a variety of different things. It could just be one really significant experience in your life, or it could be from a development over time. It can be from childhood, it can be from traumatic accidents, situation, things you've witnessed. PTSD isn't really talked about a lot in relationships because that can happen no matter what. PTSD can happen to anyone, and I feel like there are maybe even young people out there who have PTSD and don't even know that they had it. And I didn't even know. I had it for years and I didn't know that I had it until I was quote unquote diagnosed with it. PTSD can come out in subtle ways. If I could describe it from my perspective, it's completely out of your control, and it's your body's reaction and response as if it was still in that trauma, as if you were still surviving and living in, whether that for you was an experience that you had, a situation, a relationship, whatever environment, situation you were in, your body learned to develop those survival skills, those reactions. It was basically just, I would say, operating off of those circumstances, and your body got so attuned to constant trauma, or at least for me it did, that was my whole nervous system, my body's first response, which then triggered my mentality, if that makes sense. I've been through years of therapy. I'm still in therapy. I absolutely love it. I don't think I will ever stop doing therapy, because I don't think you can ever stop growing as a person, as a human. I feel like that's what we're here to do, is to grow and to learn and expand. I feel like anyone and everyone should go through it. There's such a stigma around it, which really makes no sense, because to me, when you're bettering yourself and you're really holding accountability for your healing and for your inner work, that is such a beautiful, strong thing to do that I think should be rewarded and is incredibly vulnerable and difficult. And I think that is such a beautiful thing, to really look at yourself. And for me, therapy has been really introspective. It focuses on yourself, things that you need to heal, work on, growing. It really just brings better self-awareness, and I feel like self-awareness is an incredibly important thing to have in this day and age, this world, because the funny thing is, vulnerability is a strength. It's not a weakness. Weakness to me is, and don't get me wrong, I've struggled with this, but I've really learned a lot about that. But to me, weakness is not addressing your emotions, not going to deep levels. That is extremely surface level. And going deep and being vulnerable takes a lot of strength, because really just you're opening yourself up to, I don't know, I don't know how to describe it, but it's just, it's a very vulnerable, it's a very vulnerable thing to do. That I think should be rewarded and is incredibly important thing to have in this day and age, this world, because the funny thing is, vulnerability is a strength. It's not a weakness. Weakness to me is, and don't get me wrong, I've struggled with this, but I've really learned a lot about that. But to me, weakness is not addressing your emotions, not going to deep levels. That is extremely surface level. And going deep and being vulnerable takes a lot of strength, because the possibility of hurt or pain or being judged or being rejected, which that's a whole other topic that I could go into, but I think it's incredibly strong and I think that's a beautiful thing. Don't ever think of it as a weakness. To me, it's never a weakness. So I'll go into some of the symptoms after I left an abusive relationship. Should I even call it symptoms? That feels so weird to call it symptoms. I would just say, let's just call it things that I experienced, and then I'll kind of go into PTSD that I had and I didn't understand that's what PTSD was. Some of the things that I've experienced, I would say one of the most major things I think maybe a lot of people experience and don't even realize it is your nervous system. Gosh, my nervous system was just surviving for years and years and years. And I feel like I had undiagnosed anxiety maybe growing up that I didn't understand was anxiety. I don't even want to like scientifically explain it. I feel like I just want to explain it from my perspective and point of view. But I would just say my nervous system was a really big thing that took me a long time to heal and to kind of navigate, definitely to get it to just a sustainable way for me to live, because your nervous system controls your bodily functions. It really affected me mentally because your body thinks that you're in danger. It could be the simplest things too that didn't even need a reaction from me, but I would get a text or somebody would knock on the door. Even just loud noises for me still I've been really working on, but I've been trying to expose myself little by little to really just retrain my body to know that I'm safe. Like even just fireworks, loud noises, like honking, cars honking, something falling, something dropping, doors slamming, any sort of loud noise, my body, I would instantly, I would just be like this. I'd be jolted. My heart would start racing. I would instantly be like, okay, what do I need to do? Where is it coming from? Hyper awareness, hyper vigilance. I developed to be able to hear everything. Like it could be a mile away and a pin drops and I know where it's from. If that makes sense, you have to, I was in an environment where I had to be hyper aware of everything around me. And so that's a really like in tune thing that I have had to work on a lot, because I don't even know, you just hear a sound or hear a noise and then I was instantly like, okay, where's it coming from? Who is it? What is it? Like, why is it there? I think just any kind of yelling, somebody raising their voice, any sort of similarities that remind you of a person, a place. It could literally be colors. Like it could be someone wears a yellow shirt and you have been, violated in some way by someone wearing a yellow shirt. And so now you associate a yellow shirt with trauma. And so it could literally be as simple as that, like something so little that you wouldn't even think of. It could even be down to songs, certain music themes, certain colored cars. It could be somebody looking like somebody that you knew. It really can just be certain environmental things that you noticed or you remember from a traumatic time in your life. And so now every time you see certain things like that, you will associate that time with that experience. Flashbacks was another thing that I really struggled with for a long time. And I'm not even kidding you, for me, I would get vivid memories that would feel like I was back in the same situation. It would literally replay in my mind. Like I would feel everything as if I was in that situation. I had nightmares for months, years probably. Nightmares is a really, I think, common thing that people go through, but for me, that was a really hard, difficult thing. My sleep schedule was off. I didn't feel like I could rest and relax. I'm still really working on resting and relaxing. I have a really weird thing where I will beat myself up for resting and relaxing, or I feel like I can't. And it took my body probably over a year to get regulated to better sleeping patterns. I couldn't sleep because I felt like I had to be on alert all the time. I think just resting and relaxing in general, that is a really big thing that took me a long time. I think a lot of people probably experience that because at one point in your life, when you had that trauma, you couldn't rest and relax, or you couldn't feel like you could let down your guard, because sleeping, resting, relaxing really puts you in a vulnerable, quote unquote, state. Certain phrases, just certain phrases that people would say, it could even be certain words, like the way somebody says something that reminds you of a specific person, that could really, I would say, trigger you or like alert your body. Many people may be struggling with PTSD, even younger people, and you won't even know it, or you don't even understand it. It's really interesting what it does to your body, to your being. I didn't understand that that's what I had for the longest time. And for the weird thing is, like, I didn't even want to validate that myself, but PTSD is an extremely huge thing, from toxic relationships, narcissism, abuse of any form. I think just narcissism in general, because narcissists don't ever validate you. You are always the problem to them. I think it just creates a lot of trust issues with yourself, your body, and that can ripple into friendships, work relationships, work habits, family relationships, just relationships with yourself, and taking care of yourself and validating yourself and trusting yourself. I just had a lot of resentment that I had to work on, because for me, I felt like I was in prison, if you could say. I felt like I was tethered and pushed down and controlled for several years in such a really monumental period in my life. I was, you know, a teenager going into my early 20s, and that was such a transitional time. I went throughout college and I didn't have the same college experience, or I just didn't have the same experiences that I felt like peers around me had. I felt like I was so much older than my actual age. I couldn't relate to anyone my age still. I feel like still I just better relate to older people than me, or people who just have similar life experiences or can understand life from a different perspective, a deeper perspective. I wasn't focused on all of the fun, lighthearted things that I could have experienced during my college years, during the last years of high school, during those really cool transitional moments. I was focused on surviving. And I think that's such an interesting topic that needs to be discussed. I know there's so many young people in school, in college, in high school who go through incredibly difficult, deep things. And I know what that's like to go through that and to not feel like you can relate to even friends, peers, people around you. And I just feel like people need to discuss it more. And I know how incredibly difficult it is to open up about it, but if you understand how much by sharing your story and speaking your truth can impact and affect and inspire so many people that you probably wouldn't even realize. I feel like from such a young age in this societal thing, or at least what I experience, is we're expected to know everything, and we're just expected to go off to college and to just know the 4-year degree or know what you want to do the rest of your life. And that is completely opposite from, I feel like, what you should know. I don't even know, you know? Like, I went through phases where I thought I knew what I wanted to do and completely switched it and changed it around. Change was such a difficult thing, especially with PTSD, because change felt like I was dying. Like, change for me, the unknown, which is so like interesting, because when you're in toxic cycles around toxic people, it's predictable, somewhat predictable. I mean, it is unpredictable, but there's a cycle that happens, right? And your body gets so attuned and used to this cycle. And once you have to break the cycle, you literally feel like a newborn, or at least I did, where you're experiencing so many firsts. You have to break this cycle that you've been so used to for a long time. And that quote unquote hurdle or new beginning can feel so scary, which is wild, right? It's scarier to think than staying in something that's constantly hurting you. But it's really the opposite, because maybe it's just the scariness of confronting your inner beliefs, your inner work, your inner traumas. But it is so incredibly beautiful and worth it on every level to experience the unknown instead of staying somewhere, staying with someone, whatever environment, situation you are in, instead of being around people, places, and things that don't deserve you or draining you or hurting you. The unknown can bring so many beautiful firsts and moments. For me, I was really young, and my first in life, you know, first going off to college, first meeting new people, whatever those firsts are for you, mine weren't safe. And it's such a weird thing when you spend years in toxic environments with people, places, and you get out and you're at this age and you're like, wow, you know, you feel like literally like a newborn again, because you're experiencing so many things from the first time that you did it before. I also just kind of want to mention the things that really helped me calm my nervous system in response and reaction to things. And I know this is gonna sound funny or silly to some people. Meditation, I'm not even kidding, changed my life, because meditation, I think about it as you're just being with yourself. You try to push away, I wouldn't say push away, let's say set aside feelings and setting aside thoughts and just being with yourself and your body. And by training your breath work, training your nervous system over and over and over again to be calm and regulated. I meditate 2 times a day now. And it took me a while to practice getting in the flow of meditating. I really changed up everything. I had to change up TV shows I watched, and I, over time, exposed myself to more and more of those things, to just know when I'm seeing that I'm in a safe environment. I wouldn't recommend that unless you're around someone safe, or you feel safe, or you feel like it's the right time for you. Because when I started doing that, I started to train myself to know, even though I'm watching this on TV, I'm not there. I'm safe where I am here. And you just kind of, I would just expose myself to certain things over time when I felt ready and I felt like I could just remind my body and myself that I was safe. But even now, I just kind of change up my music, you know, because when you're constantly listening to things and intaking, whether that's content, music, news, whatever, it can really change your outlook and perspective. It can just change what you focus on. And for me, it was incredibly important to listen to uplifting music. I would literally make playlists, and when I was feeling extremely low or I was in these moments, I would put it on and listen to it and just remind myself. It's just a constantly retraining yourself and your mind and your body. And it is so incredibly worth it, and it takes time, and you just have to be gentle with yourself. But that is what I would do. I would find healthy ways to channel those emotions into outlets, such as going on walks, walking. I would go on drives with friends, with family, and just get out and breathe and see the world, and really grounding yourself, literally putting even that, like your bare feet on the floor and listening to music, laying on the floor and listening to music, going out and walking or running or exercising, because it really puts you back in perspective of your body in the here and now, and helps you focus on the here and now instead of having your mind wandering back to these things, tricking you into thinking that you're in those situations when you're really not anymore. Those things really incredibly helped me. I would just say even just caffeine intake. I stopped drinking coffee because caffeine really affected my anxiety and my nervous system, and it would just cause a lot of issues. I wasn't sleeping in general. I literally had to take the clock out of my room. Like, I would train myself if I woke up to not look at my phone. You know, I think what comes along with when you leave traumatic experiences, releasing anything and anyone attached to that, unless there's somebody close and unless you know, they're a good person and you truly love them. But I cut out all toxic people, friends, places, and things, because those things may be attached to bad people. They may be toxic too. And I think releasing people who have similar toxic patterns just really helps you grow and get away from that and expand and be your own person. I just wanted to share what it was like for me in such a weird young age transitional moment in my life. And now I would say I haven't had a moment in a long time. Now, that being said, I don't think PTSD is a linear thing that you heal from. I think some things may stick with you and you don't even realize it. You know, for me, I had several months where I'm totally fine, and then sometimes one little thing that you hear, you see a person, or you know, see a car, you watch a show, you hear a song, any little thing, and sometimes it will remind you or bring you back. But once you've trained your body and yourself and your mind and you really healed and got in tune with yourself, it's a lot easier now to remind myself that I'm safe and that I'm fine. And so my recovery rate from being triggered in that state is a lot quicker now, and it really does become quicker. I think when PTSD goes unhealed, you can be more susceptible to falling back into these cycles with the same people, because to you, your body and your mind is comfortable in the toxic cycles, if that makes sense. And so I really had a deep dive into myself, into my reactions, into just habits in general, and really break away from that. And that's absolutely incredible. If you're doing that, if you've done that, keep going. Do not give up. It is so incredibly worth it. You are amazing. So thank you so much for taking the time to sit and chat with me. I'm sending you so much love. Stay tuned for next week's video.